Dhuum was once the god of death. During his reign, Dhuum ruled from his tower in the underworld and tolerated neither resurrections nor the existence of the undead, and he hunted down all those who escaped death, having promised death undeniable. Long before the exodus of the gods, Dhuum was challenged and usurped by Grenth and 7 heroes who followed him, and was struck down in the ossuary of the Cathedral of Eternal Radiance in Ur. Dhuum's tower was shattered, creating the Chaos Planes, and his power was transferred to Grenth, who sealed him within the Hall of Judgment behind enchanted doors and layers of divine magic, as he was unable to destroy Dhuum. There, Dhuum bided his time, gaining power every time a creature dies in the underworld. Sometime before the Flameseeker prophecies could be realized, the upheaval interior allowed the army of Dhuum to launch an assault on the underworld, imprisoning the Reapers and taking control of large portions of the realm. So that, guys, is a little bit of backstory on Dhuum. I very rarely, if ever, do this, but that's actually a direct pull from the wiki page on Dhuum. It's not official lore, but it's a community recap, essentially, of all the major points of his life, and I think it does very well. We get a little bit of extra lore about Dhuum in Guild Wars 2 from the launch, when we get to explore or where there are remnants of his old reign. That's what you can see in the background here next to the Cathedral for Lissa. There is some stuff dedicated to Dhuum, a fact that becomes particularly interesting in the personal story, funnily enough, when there's a quest to do with funerary rites for the Orions and the celebration of Lissa and some Dhuum influence nearby. So it's a pretty well-established character, had a lot to do in the original game we haven't seen much of at all in Guild Wars 2, and then finally we come to the last battle of this raid, which I want to talk to you guys about today, but I also want to give you some further backstory just than a pull from Wiki. I want to talk a bit about Dhuum's role in the original game. So when the Underworld was first released for GW1, there was no big climactic boss at the end. This was added a long time later, but when it was added, it was at a point where the devs were very good at understanding what an interesting boss fight would be for the original game and how they could implement it. So he actually ended up very cool. You're looking at some footage right now from a very old video of mine that I produced way back in, I think it was 2011, where I played through the Underworld in a pure hero team, which was a bit of a novelty at the time. I don't really remember if anyone had done it about the time that this video released, and I did this to show you guys all of the lore. There'll be a link in the description if you're particularly interested in how this went in the original game. You can definitely check that out. My commentary style is a little bit different. I actually sat down and watched the full video to learn, to have myself teach me about this encounter once again, and it was a very strange experience, but you'll see that there's some few things to pull out of this. Number one, if you guys never played the original, what you need to understand first of all is that endgame was structured extremely differently. In Guild Wars 2, it's like you get these hyper intense short burst encounters. You try it and you probably fail it, and then you try it again immediately, and then you probably fail it, and you go over and over and over again until the team, the 10 players, gel together and have got the practice to do it consistently. It wasn't like that in the original game. The original game is almost the complete opposite, where it was long, drawn-out, hour upon hour long, massive dungeon crawls that if you failed just once, you'd be brutally punished for and kicked out. So the moment-to-moment experience wasn't necessarily as hyper-intense, but over a long period of time as you got further and further to the final boss, and certainly during a final boss fight, say against Kanaxai when the Deep first came out, it was very intense because you were so scared of dying. Dhuum, in the way that I fought him here, was just like that. You're looking at footage at the end of a 2-hour-long run, and if he wins, I have to redo all of it. So some stuff to pick out. Beyond just how intense this was, a kind of intensity I don't think that Guild Wars 2 Dhuum can recapture. You'll notice that it's a fight where not only are we killing a boss, but I have a huge number of allies in my party window. So this was an encounter in the original game where I'm defending several key NPCs at the same time as I'm in a battle. So there's that. A big component of the original fight involved adds, spawns, undead minions that would be generated that you had to deal with perpetually, otherwise they'd become a serious problem. He has this really cool animation, this sort of dip attack where he goes underground for a second and then comes up and does a big spike of damage, and then he goes underground and comes up and does a big spike of damage. There was another mechanic where they totally changed the way that resurrection worked in this final fight. So if you died under normal circumstances, someone could res you, but not in the Dhuum fight. In the Dhuum fight, if you die, you instead get teleported to a totally different area of the underworld, the Forgotten Vale, and you have to speak to the spirit mare there to be sent back to the battle as a spirit. Something you've already seen in this little video series from the Guild Wars 2 side of things, they've paid off on. So in the original Dhuum encounter, you'd become a spirit, and then you could play with death penalty mechanics, and you could actually act as one of the Reapers and help them perform their ritual. The idea being you're defending these Reapers as they cast a big spell to reseal Dhuum. And you're going to see in a second that Guild Wars 2 really brings a lot of this stuff back. So the final thing to note is the Guild Wars 1 fight, you don't actually finish him off. They do very much set up that, yeah, you can't fully defeat him. You can just reseal him. And so this is what you see here. He's kneeling down in amongst these seals. And presumably another day he'll be back. And what we've seen with the Path of Fire story, with the God's Recession even from the Mists, we can see, obviously, that Dhuum has come back. So that's what it was like in the original game. As I explain the mechanics here, hopefully you'll realize why all of that's really interesting to look at. Let's get into the Guild Wars 2 version.
The influence of the statues overcome Dhuum's corruption. The gates are unlocked. Our allies are here.
We will do what must be done, Red Witch.
We've returned to silence the voice in the void.
Defend us to the death! If one of us falls before the ritual begins, Dhuum's escape is assured!
Do not let them fail the ritual. I'll help as my strength allows.
So, those NPCs I was defending in the original game, they're back! The Reapers! The Reapers are such a huge part of the underworld. To offer that experience in Guild Wars 2 but not have the Reapers would have been kind of lame, so they saved them off for the very end. You'll remember right at the start, some of the dialogue in this wing, Desmina was talking about allies. Here they are. I was really excited to see this. They look a little bit different. We have actually seen a Reaper already in Guild Wars 2. Back in the personal story, right at the end, you're looking for the source of ore to cleanse it to help Traherne finish his wild hunt. You get a choice. Do you want to seek some Norn spirits to find a magic map to figure out where it is? Or do you want to consult with the gods, kind of, or the surrogate for the gods, that being Grenth, and you go and actually communicate with a Reaper using the assistance of a human priestess that was present in some of the early story, and some Asuran stuff that was present in the early Asuran story. So you can actually do this mission. It's called Cathedral of Silence, I think, which also happens to be the name of the area. And yeah, you can play through and actually meet one of these Reapers. They don't tell you exactly which Reaper it is in the personal story. They're just known as the 7th Reaper. And, you know, it's really weird for me to look back at this instance because this was so magical and one of my favorite personal story instances in the game just because of the subject material it dealt with. And now here we are in 2018 and we haven't just got one possible Reaper where we don't even know specifically who it is. We get all of them and we know exactly what they are. They're properly labeled. This is the spirit of the Twin Serpent Mountains. This is the spirit of the Forgotten Vale, and so forth, actually establishing that these areas of the underworld, though not explorable in this wing, they are actually still canon places, and all the Reapers do return. I believe in the personal story instance they speculate that it's the Forgotten Vale Reaper, I think, who supposedly was like the most devoted or whatever. But definitely recommend you guys play that if you are looking to get into the underworld, especially as the community becomes better at it and it becomes more feasible to pug and, you know, people get the mechanics down pat a little bit more. So we do get all of them back. Unfortunately, there's not much dialogue again. Why do they come to Desmina's aid? How did they know to come to her aid? What's their capacity as followers of Grenth now that Grenth isn't really here? Are they in service to her? They don't really say very much. I am a bit disappointed by that. You can't walk over to them and press F and get individual dialogue about them. For example, the one that appeared in the personal story, if I was on a human who had also done that step, I would love them to have thrown us a bone. And I know that people say that stuff all the time. It's not an exactly new thing to request of the devs. But you have to remember that Wing 4, Bastion of the Penitent, had all kinds of juicy stuff like that. If you were a human that had done the prison storyline, you would reference it. And that was a much more minor story beat than the Cathedral of Silence step. But hey. So, at this point in the wing, I might be letting you down a bit. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be new Glenna dialogue that unlocks back at the town. Certainly it has done at other moments, and I've managed to cut that in for you guys. But I can find no reference of it on Wiki. And when I open an encounter at this level, I also don't seem to be able to get any Glenna dialogue. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they didn't add any audio, but you'd think they'd had some conversations about the fact the Reapers have explicitly arrived here. But Glenna will return at the very end of this video once we've finished the fight. So, speaking of the fight, that's about all the preamble I can offer you guys. The goal is simple. Reseal, defeat Dhuum with the aid of the Reapers, just as we had in the original game. And incredibly, the devs pay off on even more nostalgia here. Just as the battle in Guild Wars 1 Underworld was about defeating a boss while also protecting several key allies that stand in a large circle around the room, the Guild Wars 2 Dhuum encounter is exactly the same. We have to defend the Reapers while they enact their ritual. And in particular, you're going to be seeing I'm playing a very distinct role. So the footage I'm going to show you, since I've only beaten Dhuum once, the footage I'm going to show you is my first and only clear. I have played a ton of Dhuum, but my group, we struggle at various aspects depending on the week and one of the mechanics we'll do, I'll explain in a second. Often our players rotate and we have to teach new people how to do it. So I'm not necessarily going to be fighting too much of the boss. I wish I had another perspective to show you guys, but this should be interesting at least to see broad aspects of the battle, and it's going to be me contributing mostly to keeping those Reapers alive and performing some of the more interesting mechanics. So let's do it. Okay, so I'm actually going to pause it really early here at the start and describe the very beginning of the fight before we even get in the room. So you'll notice that yes, the seal on the door is down, but you'll also hopefully notice that all the Reapers are standing here. They're not actually in the room yet. So, importantly, for the beginning of the fight, and believe me, you're going to see a lot of this part of the fight when you're in progression, we don't actually fight Dhuum at all. Dhuum is going to sit there completely unperturbed, unthreatened, not remotely interested in our presence. He's just going to sit on his throne watching us like an utter boss, and it's brilliant the way that the devs do that. The only thing that Dhuum is actually concerned about is not us, the puny humans and Asura and whatever. It's the Reapers, because he knows that the Reapers have the power to reseal him. So the beginning of the fight, all Dhuum's going to do is, while on his throne, is spawn enemies, monsters, undead, deliberately that are going to attack the Reapers. And what the developers are doing here is teaching you about like some of the core mechanics that are going to go on throughout the fight. So again, you'll notice that the Reapers are all standing in the doorway. They have to get into the room to perform the ritual. So a huge part of the start of this fight is just going to be killing undead that is tailor-made, specifically designed to kill the Reapers. That is all. Dhuum is going to stay in the throne and we're not even going to fight him. All right? So we'll talk about that in a second. So here what my team is doing is they're standing at that square squad marker. I'll talk about those shortly. But they're standing over there, and I'm actually going to stay here with Desmina. Because of my particular role, I actually get to trigger the fight and speak to Desmina, who kicks it all off, and then does sort of very little, really. But we'll talk more about her later. So, yeah, we'll go over there, and this will all start. And remember, what we're going to be doing is watching for undead, 2 of which are going to spawn by this square. And again, I'll just remind you guys, this is more of a presentation of the fight rather than a hardcore guide that talks about, you know, which mobs are weak to condi damage, which ones are weak to flat, and so on and so on and so on. And here we go. So she says, "Are you prepared to face death inevitable?" Well, I am ready. So, the fight opens with a shockwave, and you get these little deathlings. These are little spiders. They will perpetually attack the Reapers once they are trying to perform their ritual. They're not too much of a threat, so you get that. But then the shockwave also spawns 2 creatures. So you get an enforcer, and you get a messenger. I'll tell you about the messenger first, because these are the guys that I'm most interested in my role. These creatures do massive point-blank damage to anyone around them, like insanely huge, to players and the Reapers. What they're going to do is the first person who attacks them will fixate them. So they get really angry with whoever the first person it is that touches them. So here you can see I am casting a lava font under his feet. And what that will mean is I get the first attack, and he will spend his entire life chasing me. And I'm going to stand deliberately away from my friends and away from the Reapers later, so that nobody gets hurt. You'll notice that this is actually a really big room. Later on in the fight, if you don't have someone dedicated to grabbing the attention of the messengers, then they won't get fixated on anyone, and they'll just walk to a Reaper, and they'll just kill the Reaper straight away. So this is kind of my job. I'm like dealing with these and several other things too, but the main priority, especially at the start, is dealing with these. So I'm going to grab the lava font and I'm going to take him with me. So we'll just watch that a little bit. We'll talk more about the skeleton fellow in a second. Also, some incredible dialogue here I guess I'll let you guys listen to. So this is what Dhuum says on spawn.
Naturally, you seem to write the conclusion of your legend. There is no conclusion more natural than death.
So, pretty cool line. I'm not really sure what he means by we seek to write the conclusion of... Is this the conclusion of our legend? I don't know. But he sounds brilliant, fantastic. You know, we're talking Demos levels of art and audio and so forth, I think, for this final fight. His design has changed a little bit, you might notice. Just the Reaper design's changed a little bit. But yeah, so... You'll notice there that I grabbed a second messenger. I'm just pulling them away from my friends, so I've got 2 of them here. And you'll notice over here, the Ice Wastes Reaper is the first to have come in, and he is going to begin his ritual over there on that arrow. You'll also notice that there's this purple orb in the sky. And if we watch that purple orb now, you'll notice that when it lands on this kind of panel down here in the middle of the room, it becomes a messenger. And if you look over here right now, you'll see that there's another orb in the sky. Sort of a small one, and then there's a large one. So I always know when messengers are spawning before they spawn, because Dhuum is actually summoning these things. They're not just randomly appearing in the room out of nowhere and you have to guess. You can actually see them floating down as orbs. And this will happen continuously. All these little panels in the middle of the room, this is where messengers can spawn. So I can just precast a lava font or an air overload or a meteor shower or whatever on any of these. And looking at the trajectory of these orbs, I can predict where they'll be coming. Not only that, but the rest of my team can do this too, who are currently killing skeletons. All right, so before I go crazy talking about the enforcers, the skeletons, let's just keep watching and see how this goes. So here I'm watching this orb here, waiting for it to come down as my team deals with that. I'm pulling messengers away still. And so now I'm dropping this fire overload here. I don't know how bad this gameplay is going to be. I'm a lot better at this role now, by the way. This was a very old footage, so I hope people don't cringe too much at this. This is very old gameplay here on this role. So yeah, we've got more messengers, and you'll notice that my team over here is now collecting this enforcer. So just as the messengers can be seen with small orbs, the enforcers can be seen with big ones. You'll notice now, that some of the messengers following me have died. They die just like after a period of time. So the messengers expire. That makes them different to enforcers in that the enforcers, the skeleton over here, these guys don't expire. These guys you have to actually physically kill. So again, just like in the original game where skeletons kept spawning and building up and up and up, that will happen in this game too. These will build up and they become a massive threat to the Reapers. So another huge part of this fight is making sure that if any of these spawn, they die very quickly. And that's what Dhuum's trying to do right now. Dhuum's not trying to fight us. He's just trying to kill Reapers and get rid of these threats, right? This Enforcer is just going to make a beeline for this Reaper and try and kill it. So my team is going to try and kill it first. Just as I can see where the messengers spawn by looking at the small orbs, my team can see where the Enforcers spawn by looking at the big orbs. So that's kind of the process we are under right now. You notice there's now 3 Reapers in the room. We got this guy, and this guy. They're going to fill up the room clockwise. And Dhuum's going to do something quite incredible to try and kill them in a second. So I take more fixation. Another thing you'll notice is in the middle of the room we get these little orbs. This is what Desmina's doing. She's standing in the doorway throwing her own orbs. Which is interesting, I think, the lore implications of that. Like, what kind of magic is this? Is this more soul magic? Because everywhere else we've seen orbs, it's been to do with spirit consumption and stuff. These give people super speed. So there's a lot of running around. This is a huge room. We don't get mounts here. I actually feel like the role I'm playing might have been at one point designed for mounted gameplay, but they cut it out before release or something. But so she throws super speed orbs. If you just grab these, it makes my role very easy. A person who's good at my role will very rarely collect these so that my allies can take them at dealing with some other mechanics later. But you'll probably see me get a lot because this is early footage. So yeah, they're just killing that Enforcer. I'm moving away and keeping the messengers out of the way. Another Reaper's just walked into the room, and now we get another great mechanic. So you will notice that this Reaper has just cried, "Dhuum's gaze falls on me." This is something that you have to deal with for a lot of this fight and is one of the more defining features. So there's a big green circle. If you guys saw the previous video I made, you'll remember that there were lost spirits walking into the Zaitan encounter. And they were going to get instantly reaped, instantly killed. And what our team had to do was stand next to the spirit so that they would be killed instead, thus saving the spirit's life. I actually made a mistake on that video. I said it was a full wipe. If you missed it, it's not. It's just a shockwave. In Dhuum, it is. So Dhuum is doing the same thing that Mouth of Zaitan was doing. Dhuum is just trying to instantly kill this. He's just sitting there casually watching, and he's just summoned this thing that's going to instantly kill it. Dhuum's gaze. So we have to save this Reaper's life by having a player walk over to it. And the raid itself has already taught us how this functions. And what happened last time? Remember when we did this mechanic? This player is going to die, but they're not going to be eliminated completely. They're in the underworld. They're going to become a spirit. They're going to become a floating orb, just like in the Mouth encounter. So if we watch this closely, hopefully my camera shows this off. If we watch our player, the Reap comes, this giant hand, it slams down on the Reaper, it misses the Reaper, it hits my ally, and now he's floating into the sky. So, this is a whole other dimension of the fight. He's now above us in the tower, swirling around. So I'm just going to swap here to a totally different encounter to show you guys what that looks like from our perspective. So this is a much more recent run. This is like last week's runs, one of our attempts where I'm on the same role. You don't have to worry about anything else on the footage, but I'll show you what it looks like when I go up. So here you'll notice the Twin Serpent Mountain Reaper is being reaped, and none of my friends are in position. I've realized that the guy who we were supposed to have dedicated to coming here and saving the Reaper's life, he's forgotten. He's been too slow. He's not defeated, he's just missed it. So I'm going in instead. So here you'll notice the messengers are trying to follow me, but they're not going to be able to for much longer because I'm about to go into the sky. At which point they'll just wander around and we have to hope they don't kill a Reaper in the meantime, because I'm trying to do two jobs at once here. So I'm going to stand in the green circle. I'm going to get reaped. I become a spirit. Unlike the Mouth encounter, we don't get the ability to move up or down anymore. I don't know why the developers made that decision to sort of have the orb mechanics be different each time. But we're an orb. You'll notice how many of the encounters this has been a thing in. And we float way up into the sky. So, this is like where all of the souls from the River of Souls have been moving to, I suppose. This big center beam of light, this is a Reap. If we go into that, we instantly die. It's a bit like when the Mouth of Zaitan was sucking us into it. We don't want to be in the very center of the room. All of these, like soul fragments, they're all perpetually going in the middle. And just like before, just like in the Spirit Run, just like in the Mouth fight, to bring ourselves back to life, we have to collect these. 5 of them. So that's going to be one of my priorities. Another one of my priorities is going to be looking at the orbs themselves. So you remember a minute ago in the encounter I told you that there are big orbs that Dhuum uses to summon enforcers, the skeletons. You can see when a skeleton's going to spawn because of the big orb. And there are small orbs that represent the messengers. Well, we actually get to do some fun stuff here. Turns out that Dhuum's getting his power from the sky up here. And if you notice this orb is bigger than the other ones. I mean, this angle where I've paused it, you can't see quite well, but this is a bigger orb than the other ones. And funnily enough, if I grab this orb, it denies it from Dhuum. And by denying it from Dhuum, basically, I've prevented him being able to spawn a skeleton altogether. So it is possible to fight the skeletons while you fight Dhuum. It's just extremely hard and the tanking would be a mess and it would be terrible. But if you as an orb actually grab a big one, you can do, it's like I've just soloed the skeleton. That's how powerful this is. Some people say that you cannot beat Dhuum without doing this, and, you know, like every single one. If you miss one of these, it's like missing a black at Deimos, right? It's like almost worthy of a wipe. I don't think it's that bad, because you can actually out-heal the skeleton, and just one person can come cleave it down or whatever. But it is a mistake to miss these. So the job of my role here is A, to save the Reaper, preventing an instant wipe, but B, I can actually prevent a skeleton from spawning too, by collecting at least one big orb, as you see there. So this enforcer down here has just spawned. He'll be one of the last ones, because forevermore now in the fight, our people who are going up can deny them. So that's pretty cool. Then I'm just going to grab lots of small orbs to bring myself back to life. There is another pro tip here, by the way. If you are amazing enough to get 2 big orbs in one volley, You can actually deny messengers too. At least I believe. I'm not very familiar with that, but I think that you can deny messengers too. So you could deny all kinds of spawns just by being good at the mechanic. But here, so I grab the orbs. I'm back down in the fight. You notice I got a little debuff down here. That means I can't save another Reaper for a while. It's like having a headache after Sabbather or whatever. So that's kind of a huge mechanic in this fight. That's a big thing that you have to deal with. Every 30 seconds, a new Reaper's going to get reaped. And there's an odd number of them. And the debuff lasts for 90 seconds, I think it is. Or 60. So basically, you need to dedicate 3 people to doing this as much as possible. And here, just for the funsies, I'll show you what happens if you try and do 2 in a row. Oh, no, I'm pretty sure I won't try and do 2 in a row here because I know I don't have it. My team's just missing them. And here's what it looks like to wipe. The Reaper of the Chaos Plains dies. And Dhuum kills us. So there you go. That's one mechanic. That's that perspective. Let's go back to the kill footage now, shall we? Here we are. My friend's going up, as I demonstrated before. He's going to be doing that in the sky. Let's shift our attention back to me now. I just played with another mechanic. I guess I'll talk about that in a second. We'll let the fight actually roll through for a bit. So you can see Deathlings are spawning. You can see I'm grabbing the messengers as much as possible. Now, while Doom's on the throne, he's kind of going overload spawning stuff. He spawns lots of messengers. He's full-time spawning. Oh, wow, we had a terrible mechanic gameplay back there. I can't believe we got the kill at the start on this run when that happened. So he's trying to reap the Reapers. He's spawning as many things as possible. But eventually, once all the Reapers are in the room, you'll notice only the Triangle Reaper is left now. Bone Pits just came in. There's only one more to come in. Once all of the Reapers are in the room, all conjuring this ritual to keep Dhuum resealed, at this point, he's going to get pissed. And at this point, he's going to get off of his throne, and he's actually going to start fighting. So, I believe that will happen in just a second here. So another Reap's going through there. My kiting is, like, really bad. You can usually keep a lot more distance than this. So I'm keeping these messengers away. And Dhuum just gets off of his throne. You missed the animation a little bit here on my footage, unfortunately. But he's going to get off his throne. So, Dhuum's going to stop fighting. What a boss he looks like. He no longer floats like he did in the first game. He's got this crazy scythe. This is a drop. So he toughness tanks, which means we have one of our players over here who's dedicated to pulling his aggro. And what we're going to do is, you know how the Reapers are being reaped in sort of a big circle clockwise? So they came into the room clockwise and they're going to keep getting reaped clockwise. What we're going to do as tanks is attempt to keep him, the Dhuum, near to the Reapers. Not super close to the Reapers, but near enough that when one of our players has to go save a Reaper's life, they have a short walk. So they don't have to do these enormous marathons where they can't do any damage, they can't do any heals, they can't offer any support or anything. We don't want them doing that. We want them to do just a nice little short nip to a Reaper. So our goal is to move sort of clockwise around in time-ish with the Reaps. Now, if players are missing Enforcers, which we might have on this run, I don't know, is this an extra skeleton that's about to spawn? If players are missing Enforcers, you can kind of flip the tanking. There's also a method to tank him in the middle of the room. I think speed clear top kill time right now is actually to hold him in the middle of the room, and that's for various reasons I guess I don't need to go into. So there's lots of variance in the ways you can do it, but that's what you can see my group is going to be going for. So off Dhuum goes. I have some just free damaging uptime here. My role, you can actually run much more interesting builds than this, by the way. You can run, like, range DPS builds. You can do all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of fun things. So here's another fun thing I kind of want to talk to you guys about. You notice all the Deathlings are going on to this Reaper here at the doorway, the Reaper of the Chaos Plains. Poor Reaper of the Chaos Plains, man. So, fun time story here. Every single messenger that spawns will always make a beeline for this guy. All the Deathlings will permanently be on this guy. I have to make sure he stays alive more than any of the others because he has massive aggro. And I wonder if the developers did this on purpose. Because funnily enough, in the original Guild Wars Underworld, one of the most notorious quests in the entire game, extremely difficult, was a quest that the Reaper of the Chaos Plains involved, called the Four Horsemen. And any old GW1 players will probably be smiling right now. The Four Horsemen was a horrible fight that really very easily killed this Reaper back in the original Underworld, and if he died, you got instantly kicked. So this is a Reaper that is notorious for being difficult to keep alive in the lore already. Also, the Chaos Plains is literally, when Doom owned the Underworld, he had a giant tower there. That's where he ruled from. And when Doom usurped him, they destroyed the tower, and it became the Chaos Plains that this Reaper now overlooks. So it's like Doom has got a vendetta, has got a grudge against this specific Reaper, and they kind of replicate that in the Guild Wars 2 gameplay. I don't know if it's intentional. I really hope it is, because if it is, it's not lost on me. I think it's hilarious. You're going to see I have to deal with this guy a lot. There is risk of the other ones dying, especially if you miss enforcers. Depending on where they spawn, they'll go for other Reapers. But the Chaos Plane will be perpetually pressured far more than any other Reaper in Guild Wars 2 history. So we're going to be moving over, dropping lava fonts. My damage is utterly negligible on the actual fight. Here I do a kind of a bad kite where I pull the messenger over, but it dies. So my guy goes up again. Here we see a cool animation from the scythe. He slams it in the ground and creates some cracks on the floor. Those cracks here, you can see. These explode, do massive damage, fear you for days across the room. So we actually saw this mechanic already from the King Frozen Wind encounter a little bit earlier. So they've already shown us that telegraph and how to deal with it. Here's another mechanic. It says here, I'm afflicted. This is a lot like, say, Slothazor, if you guys have done Wing 2, where you get poison on you. I get access to a special action hotkey, and when I press this, there's a huge explosion around me. Basically, Doom has afflicted me with a bomb. The bomb will go off after a reasonable period of time, and it does insane damage. If I'm standing in the group and I let this bomb explode, it one-shots everyone. But the further I move away from everyone, the less damage it will do. So you're going to see I press this special action in a second, and I blow my bomb up. I'm not right now because I have an ally standing next to me. Actually, I might anyway. Okay, so that ally just came from the orb mechanic. When you come down from the orb mechanic, the game is kind of nice to you, and it makes you immune to the explosion so that cheesy explosion deaths don't occur. So that's kind of nice. But here I blink into the other side of the room, and you actually see everybody did take a little bit of pressure anyway. And I was like max distance. I went like well overboard there. So one of the main things with Doom, if you guys are practicing it, again, I don't want to go full guide mode here, but one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is they run away so far away with the bomb. Like, you can usually take a bit of cleave. Like, your druids can heal you back up. Don't worry about it too much. You don't have to go totally obscene with how far away. It's more important you actually start contributing to the fight instead of just running the entire time. But that bomb comes up all the time. You see, I just blew mine up, and now another person's got it up. So you got to watch that and just be aware of one another. You'll see I'm running Rebound. Rebound is beautiful in this build. It's one of the reasons I like doing Tempest for this. It's because if someone runs out with a bomb, I can just say, oh, I've got Rebound, and they can blow it up next to me, and it would just save my life. I actually really like the idea of running, like, DPS Tempest or something. I don't know, because it's so undertuned these days. But using Rebound so that people don't even have to walk out in the first place, but that's kind of an obscene, just a weird comp that I've always thought would be interesting. So you'll notice that there's a whole load of mess over where Doom was. I'll talk more about his abilities in particular in a second when we catch some more. Let's just roll the fight along. So Reaps are happening, explosions are happening. Every time someone saves a Reaper's life, they're trying to make sure that we don't get extra spawns. I'm making sure the Chaos Plane guy stays alive. So here, this is one of Doom's basic attacks. He just drops all these marks all over the place that explode. Bit of poison damage, I think it is. It's not too major. But using marks and giving him necromantic abilities is obviously awesome. His abilities are actually references to other things in the game, and I'll show you one in a second, in particular this mess that's over here. So his autos, by the way, do a massive damage. They like eviscerate you. They are so deadly. Standard a situation of the tank holding him facing a corner and everybody else standing over here. We're still roughly near where the Reapers are being reaped. In a minute, we're going to move to the other side of the room because obviously he's going to keep going clockwise around with his reaps. So here I just contribute a little, and we're about to have one of the coolest mechanics, one of the coolest things in the entire battle, one of the coolest possibilities I've ever seen the devs put in the game, Greater Death Mark, okay? So it occurs at very predictable periods of time. This one's going to happen at 6:30. So if we watch, Doom is currently in the corner on my tank, but what he's going to do is he's going to get bored of that in a second, and he's going to dip down into the ground, much like he did in Guild Wars 1, teleport up, much like he did in Guild Wars 1, and he's going to do a huge ability. So this does a ton of things, and I'll describe it all very slowly. First of all, he's going to cause a massive, unavoidable explosion that knocks everyone away from where they're facing. So if I face Doom, it's going to knock me back here. If I face this way, it's going to knock me towards Dhuum. You do not want to get knocked towards Dhuum. What he's going to do is knock you away and apply massive torment to you. So that's the first thing, and I'll just show you that. So there's the ability, and boom, we've been knocked away, and we have torment on us. Everyone on the group will get that, except whoever is in the sky. So you notice one of my players is in the sky and he's not been affected. So sometimes you can avoid it. Sometimes it actually makes it really hard because you have to go up. A reap will happen right as this occurs, which is just horrendous. One of the people actually assigned tends to have a harder roll because that will happen a lot. So we've got the torment. This torment's going to hit really hard. It's only 6, but at the moment that happened, funnily enough, you'll notice, I think I probably had regen before that landed. I have no boons. No one in my entire team has any boons because Dhuum just stole every single boon in the raid from us all. So we're all naked, so we have no protection, we have no resistance, we have nothing that will defend us from this torment. And Dhuum has 25 might. Dhuum has retaliation. If you're running DHs, he has retail now, and we actually are here. Dhuum has pretty much everything we'd put on ourselves. Especially now, he'll even have alacrity. I don't think that actually affects the encounter, I suppose. But it means that he does massive damage. So immediately at this moment, your team's going to prioritize on 2 things. 1, Boon Rip. Very important. You can utilize a Spellbreaker with the Winds Elite, by the way. If you were tanking him in the center of the room, you can precast it and you won't get any boons. So there's Boon Rip. You can use Null Fields. You can use any of the good stuff, right? But also Condition Cleanse. Really important. So I'm running Healing Rain. What I hope I do, I don't know how good I was at it when we're in this run here. What I hope I do is stun break my knockback with a water overload, cancel to cleanse myself as well, cancel cast it immediately, and drop a Healing Rain on my group. Because why is the torment so bad, you might be wondering? Well, check this out. Not only has all of that happened, the Boon Rip and whatnot, but we've been split from our soul. So this isn't the same as when we become an orb. This is the same as what we've seen in some of the other encounters where we are going to, our soul is going to weaken and will be killed if we don't reunite with our body very quickly, okay? So it says reunite with your soul. I think it's our body we're kind of reuniting with, right? So you notice I'm a ghost now. I'm a ghost. So where I was originally hit, that is going to become a big shining white light. So you can see this here. It's my job to walk into this, to reclaim my body and become whole again. If I don't do this in a very short period of time, it's instant defeat. So, just for example, I could be split from my body, hit with massive torment. I was already a little bit low, go down state, and then I don't have time to get my thing back. And then I die, okay? Or any number of different things can happen. So everyone in the group is doing this right now. We're all reclaiming. Everyone is. So here you see I cancel cast, I walk in, I reclaim my soul, and I cast the Healing Rain on my group to cleanse them all. So that's another thing that this build can do on this roll. You can run druids with healing. There's tons of cleanse, obviously. I don't need to list all of that out in the game. But we do this. And you notice I actually cast it forward from the group as well, because I know that they're all going to walk into this to reclaim their souls, yeah? So there's that. This is all just on the initial impact. Now, what's Dhuum doing now, you might ask? Well, here's something else incredible. Dhuum has just become like a giant soul vortex. He's going to stand in the middle of the room, tell us to struggle, submit, flee, no matter your life is mine. And he is going to be pulling us all in. Constantly pulling us all in. All at once, with all the boons on him and everything, okay? So, if we stand next to that, it's a bit like when you're an orb in the sky, it's instant defeat. So, remember what I said at the start? How if you're facing him, you'll get knocked away, but if you're facing away from him, you'll get knocked into him. You'll now see how that's really deadly. See, players will realize that this is going to become a big attack, and they'll be like, oh god, I need to face away from Dhuum and run away. But that's going to knock you towards him, and you're going to be getting sucked towards him while trying to reclaim your soul, and it's just a nightmare. While struggling against torment, and you're trying to do the other stuff, it's incredibly deadly. The most important thing about this entire fight, oh, sorry, this entire animation, I should say, is when you notice that he's gone into the middle of the room to do this, everyone has to, like, about face and face him. Remember, if you're a DPS character, you were just facing the wall. If you keep facing the wall, he's gonna, well, that would actually, yeah, he's gonna knock you towards him and then suck you in. You don't want that. When he goes into the middle of the room, you have to be aware to face him so that you get knocked towards the wall and you can easily, like, if anything, he's pulling you back towards your soul, okay? So really, really important which direction you're facing at the start. This suck ability is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. Like, how cool is this? How much stuff did they just load on this one ability, the Greater Death Mark? So right now, you'll see I'm struggling. I'm actually running away. So another complication for me on my roll, I messed it up here, which is kind of embarrassing, I guess. Guess what the game does as well at this point? At this exact moment, it spawns another messenger. So it's actually my job, and hopefully you'll see me do it correctly later. It's actually my job to attack and get aggro on a messenger while I'm being sucked into the room and cleanse my group and to keep it away from the Reapers and everyone else. Here, it looks like another one of my team has grabbed aggro from it, and I was too slow and I didn't notice. So now they've got a messenger cleaving massive damage on them while all the other stuff's going on. So I have not made this easy for my team here, messing this up on this particular run. But so you'll see we're getting sucked in, and look at how close to the middle of the room I am at this point. Now, I could lightning flash away, so that wasn't actually as scary as it seems. But so we managed to get through it. So, at this point, the Reaps now that we've survived that, that's a big watershed moment, by the way. Once your team is actually surviving that without any casualties, you're doing all right, okay? At this point now, the Reaps are going to start coming over here. So we're moving to the other side of the room, just to give these people a bit more space. Also, there's a mechanic on the other side where we were already tanking and that started to clutter that area. I'll talk about it in just one moment, because we'll see in a second. So you see tanks in front, DPS is behind. My job right now is to keep Chaos Planes alive. Another Affliction Bomb. I've rebounded just in case the guy blew it up early. This means that he could have just done it next to me and ran in. It would have meant more DPS uptime for him. So I'm doing this, and they're kind of doing the same thing. Now watch Dhuum here. Cool ability here. So Dhuum just sunk into the ground again. He's not going to pop out of the middle this time. That won't happen for a little while. That's on a timer. But he just sunk into the middle. This is a very cool ability as well, and I hope that you guys get to see it. At this point, Dhuum has selected a random player in our group to teleport to. My positioning is actually really bad right now because he might teleport to me and this would be awful, but I'll explain that in just one moment. So what's going to happen is he's going to pop out of the ground on a random person. So here he chose one of the DPS, which is your most likely thing to happen. I believe he chooses his target at the start and he'll go on that target like lots of times during the fight. But so now you can see there's this big OA. What he's going to do is he's going to slam the ground, and anyone in that slam at that moment, right there, that shockwave you saw, also gets split from their body. So that's another minor version of the soul split, and they have to run and quickly grab it. So you'll see that there's a big horrible looking tail here. What's happening is there's going to be a green fire that builds as a circle. I mean, the art is so fantastic on this, right? You're going to get a green fire that builds in a circle. Once the fire connects back to itself, it's going to paint this entire place with horrible, nasty, hell death fire that you cannot evade through. I don't think you can embalm through. And it like just instantly kills you. It's almost impossible to res people through that. You got to pluck bodies out with transfusion or search and rescue or whatever. It is ridiculously deadly, okay? But it will only become deadly once the fire connects back. So you can see the idea here. If you got caught by the initial blast, they're asking you to run back in to reclaim your body. But you got to do it before the fire fully becomes a thing. That ability, by the way, that's Dhuum Fire, which is, of course, a Necromancer burning-based trait. So Dhuum actually uses Dhuum Fire, and I think that's pretty cool. This will paint the ground and stay on the ground for ages now. So you notice this is an old Dhuum Fire. It's still from, like, our first tank location. It's still over there. So the reason my positioning is bad is if he'd randomly teleported to me, he would have put Dhuum Fire here on the Reaper. Now, the Reaper won't die from the Dhuum Fire. But remember, this Reaper's going to get reaped soon. These last for ages. This guy's going to get reaped, then this guy, and then this guy. And if I paint Dhuum Fire on the floor here, what's my dude going to do? He can maybe teleport in at the last second between the ticks of damage and, like, maybe do it, but he's probably going to die. This could have been a wipe, to be honest. This is a wipe level play that I actually made there. I should have, like, range killed the Deathlings. This guy wasn't too risky with his health anyway. So you got to be careful of that. But yeah, so there's Dhuum Fire here. Ideally, you want the Dhuum Fires to land really deep in the wall like this. It depends on the way that the tanking the DPS is positioned, and like a bit on RMG. But yeah. So Dhuum has done that, and now he's moving. Another mechanic just triggered as well, by the way. I know we've been pausing a lot, but I guess I'll talk about it here. Another mechanic just triggered when you're getting below 60% health. You know, we've got the explosion bombs. It's a lot like that. So the Chaos Planes guy just shouted, your souls are link linked separate. What this is this chain mechanic connects two players that are always going to be close to Doom. And while they're stood near one another, they do massive damage to one another. So you've got to move apart. Well, you might think, well, that's really easy, WP. I guess I'll just, I'll see that chains is up and I'll just walk out and it will break the chains. It will break the tether and we're okay. And that's true. But what's really funny about the mechanic is what if you both notice you have chains on you at the same time? You're both going to run out at the same time and you're going to kill one another at the same time. So you need like a communication technique. There's a few you can use. Our groups, we basically we accept that one person will be a bit more dim-witted than the other. One person will be quicker. So whoever's first to notice it, they just call out chains, and the person who called chains, it's their obligation to move out. The other dude, for being slow, gets the luxury of staying in. So that's the way we do it. I don't know if there's some better techniques, but there you have it. So yeah, that's all the mechanics now. With chains rolling, with affliction bombs rolling, with the reaps, with the doom fires, the greater death marks, the cracks, the other attacks, I guess, with the marks, which really aren't too bad, the minor marks. That's how it works. And me here, keeping these messengers off. There I went to try and aggro the messenger using first a water aura, then a fire aura. Neither of them landed. So instead, I'm pulling in with a water auto. You can actually use fire attunement super well, and it's fine. So here, another greater death mark. I'll just play this one through. So he knocks us back. We reclaim our body. We water overload. I'm kind of badly positioned here because I couldn't cleanse my friends. So there you can see a bit of Doomfire overlapping with the Labyrinth Reaper, and someone had to go up, but we got it in time, so that was fine. And now we run away from the Vortex. We blink away. Everybody's fine. I make sure Chaos Planes is still healed up well. Another thing, by the way, when you get knocked back, if I get knocked back into Doomfire, you can get wombo comboed. So you need to be careful not to get knocked back into Doomfire. If the tanking is correct, you'll be fine. There's an example of cracks. I don't remember ever getting hit by cracks, but there it is on the footage. So beautiful. Yeah, it's demonstrating all the mechanics for you guys. Here I'm grabbing another messenger. Here he blinked to me for Doomfire, but that's fine where I was stood because that Reaper's not going to get reaped for ages. So that's fine. This is looking like a bit of a mess now. Another thing, by the way, if you go onto Doom's throne, you get instantly killed. So if you get knocked back into the throne, that's instant death as well. So, like where I'm stood right now, if a mark was landing, it would have been terrible. So there's that. Here you can see we're doing reasonable damage. We've still got 4 minutes left on the clock, and he's only got 35% health left. Again, damage can really struggle based on how people deal with some of these mechanics. Here we got the small marks in one direction, the big ones. Here we get greater mark, where all of our cooldowns are ready for this. We get knocked back, cleanse. I don't actually... Yeah, I think I did cancel cast there. We cleanse on the group. Nobody's really too hurt. And yeah, so with my roll as well, what you guys will see is I could do a lot better than this. I could actually be taking a lot of these reaps, and that's what I do these days. At the very least as a backup. Like in my role here, you'll notice how little I'm really contributing. You can do a lot more. I think that there's certain builds that could really contribute to Doom, and I'm kind of interested in trying some. But for now, since we're not even my group isn't even consistent at killing them yet, so I'll do the safe and sturdy thing for a long time. Do you notice Chaos Planes is low, getting lower again now? But we don't have to worry too much. Another really powerful thing about my build is it's got a massive res potential, ranged res potential. So if someone dies really far away, if like there's a terrible bomb or something, I can res people. I don't know whether you'll see any plays here based on that. So here I'm afflicted. I rebound. I could have blown him up, but I figured why risk it? There's no point. I don't know whether the time you explode the bomb can delay getting another bomb. That would be interesting. I don't know whether that's really a thing. But there, so I just range res that guy. I knew he... Oh no, I didn't range res him. It was just low, and I was just making sure he was okay. Another greater death mark. This one's at the 2:30 moment. We grab the messenger this time at the same time. You notice some of our players are dying here. Bit dangerous, but should be fine. So now we've got a real problem on our hands. Now the fight is about to change. Just like at Deimos with the last 10%, it changes. This one changes too. And it's got some really cool lore implications as well here. Oh, I actually go up on this footage. Okay, so I caught the last reap. So one of our players died. You notice the player in subgroup 1, he was the guy assigned to some reapers, right? So the fact he died was really bad, and it meant that I had to do pick up and back up for him. If I didn't do that, that would have been a wipe. So again, that's another sort of strength of this build. We're on our next cycle through the room. Okay. And And the fight changes.
We've done it! The ritual is complete!
Cannot vanquish death itself.
Return to your bodies at once. Stand in for the Reapers. Buy us time. Doom must never escape.
All right, you cannot vanquish death itself. So Doom teleports to the middle of the room, and he's just like, no, that's it. I'm done. I'm not interested in this at all. And he just kills you all. You just all die straight away. Everybody gets the orb mechanic. So we have 8 players up at the moment. You do need a lot of players up for Doom at the end. And so what you'll see here is we all are now in the sky, and we all have to collect orbs. So orbs are a bit harder, I guess, when you got a lot of players, but you should still have plenty of time. I think they actually give you extra time before your soul is fully weakened on this one. We're all going for 5. Once you get 5, you'll come in the middle of the room. And you might recognize, this might look like a mess here, but here's Doom. He's primed for the kill here. And you'll notice that there's a bubble. Desmina has come in and contributed. So she says, stand in the Reapers, buy us time, Doom must never escape. And something really interesting happens with the story here. We know for a fact from Guild Wars 1 that the Reapers could have just finished that, and then that would have been it, we would have been done. But now all the Reapers are gone, the entire room is in this deadly haze, we'll take massive damage. Just like the Spirit Run, if we walk out of Desmina's Savior Bubble, we're gonna get hurt, okay? But you'll notice now that where the Reapers were stood, there are now ethereal seals. Or the seals were always there, but now they're actually marked. And so let's talk about these markers now. Everyone in my subgroup, we've all communicated with one another to have a symbol. And so I believe I'm like circle, or maybe I'm arrow. And the way we did this, we actually just shouted it in the middle of the run, which worked perfectly fine. This was the first time and only time I've actually seen this phase, by the way. So what we need to do is all of us run out to a seal. Remember, there's 7 Reapers, so I think you need 7 people alive at the end, I think. Maybe there's a counter mechanic for that if lots of people are dead. But you need to run out to the seals, and you need to press F on them. All the seals need to be activated. Now remember, you're in danger while you're out there. Now I'm on a very defensive build, so I'm not really going to get hurt too much. I think here I'm like panicking and wondering what we're doing, at what point we want to go. But so here we're just waiting for everybody to calm down who's up top. Sorry, just to be clear here. We've got Spirit of Nature's Renewal for Res up in just a moment. So here, I blink out. We get the seal ready, and we press F. Everyone on the... Look how beautiful this is. This is so good. This is so cinematic. It's so cool. Everybody hits their seal, okay? And once all of the seals have been hit...
Hold nothing back now. The fate of Tyria hangs in the balance.
We charge in, and Desmina shouts that the fate of Tyria hangs in the balance. And we get a very short window to DPS him down. So you notice that we have very little time here. I believe the timer changes as soon as this starts. You get very little time. So we've got to burn him hard. And you'll notice in the skills I use, I think I start like fire overloading to try and give people might or something, because I'm not sure what I should really be doing. This is like a heavy DPS gate here. We only get a small window. And now he comes back up. He floats back up, and we got to go do the seals again. So we're like, panic, go, get the seals, get the seals, get the seals. Everybody does it as fast as possible. Look at the pressure the rest of my team's taking. So we want to heal them as soon as we get in. Here I get a res with a geyser. You'll notice. Oh, no, don't I? I think he's slightly outside of the stack. So, yeah, he got the res. That was okay, though. So we do damage again. We almost kill him. Most groups will have him dead at this point. But we're 2 players down and not necessarily the best at the game. So we don't kill him. He's on 0.8% health with 8 seconds left on the clock here. Okay? So we all hit our seals. 3, 2, 1.
Hangs in the balance. The voice. In the void is silenced again.
The Reapers paid a heavy price.
They did as they were meant to do. As you did.
And what happens now? There's no one left to rule the underworld.
Isn't there? Now leave me.
And on that fairly interesting note there, Doom is defeated. we get the chest, we get to do some exploration. So yeah, that's the fight. That's how it goes. Hopefully you guys liked what our clear was there. And yeah, so the Reapers are defeated here in this story, so we don't get to pry them for answers at all anymore. And Desmina kind of has this weird hint here that maybe she's going to be ruling the underworld. And there's kind of a strange theory like that maybe she sabotaged things there, that maybe she sort of caused things to go that way. You can actually have a bit of a conversation with Glenna afterwards in the post-exploration where she says quite a few interesting things that you guys can listen to here.
Doom is rechained. I could hear the battle from the fort. I honestly didn't think you'd survive. We died, theoretically. Never mind. We managed it. For somebody who just prevented Death himself from escaping into the mortal realm, you don't sound very cheerful.
His new bonds are unbreakable. There's no doubt that's a great thing.
That's an understatement. What now?
Desmina seems to have things under control.
Makes sense. She's Grant's most powerful disciple. Between her and the Reapers, I'm sure...
Destroyed. The ritual. Something went wrong. Desmina intervened at the last minute and helped us finish it ourselves.
Fortuitous timing. Sounded like she was in bad shape earlier. You've put a stop to the random deaths, and thousands more if he'd broken free. You won.
I know, it's just... Let's just go. We don't belong here.
And listen to that. We don't belong here. Let's go. I mean, especially when you look at that just written down as like the script for this wing and that's the end of it. It just does feel a bit weird, doesn't it? What was Desmina up to? So here's the question. Will we get more wings here in the underworld? And what would they feature? Would Desmina become the enemy? The funny thing is, by killing the Reapers off, I wonder how much subject material they've really got to play with. Obviously, there were other things going on other quests and other locations we can go to. The line of thinking right now is because of the whole gating crystal thing that there might be more stories here. But we had magnetite shards in Bastion, which had nothing to do with the Forsaken Thicket, so... I guess it depends what the devs are really inspired by or going for. Will this be, you know, a multiple wing raid again in the underworld where we get to go back to some of those other places? And there is interesting subject material, especially with whatever they've set up with Desmina here. Or is this the kind of thing that 5 years down the road we'll be wondering whatever happened with Desmina and whether they'll come back to this plot point? I guess we'll see. Also remember that the original raid, Forsaken Thicket stuff, actually ended up becoming really important for the core story when Season 3 began. And we're in Season 4 now. Desmina might have some influence in upcoming storylines too. So yeah, there you go. The post-exploration is pretty fun, by the way. You get access to a hidden chest behind Doom's throne, which begins a collection for a new legendary ring that came as a part of the triple release. And I'll probably talk to you guys about that collection in an upcoming video, since that's a pretty easy thing to do. And there you have it. That's my experience of the Underworld. I think it's brilliant. It probably doesn't top Bastion for me. But it is very cool. I really do think they did justice to the Doom fight. I think there were so many references and nods back to the original Underworld, even though it isn't like an explicit recreation of it, that most people will come away from this satisfied. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you get to live vicariously through me. I will remind you that pugging is actually pretty easy for a new wing, especially when it comes out. I mean, in terms of getting a group at least, and as time goes forwards, people are getting better at this. It's not some insurmountable challenge. If you try and give it a go, who knows? Maybe you'll be standing here in this room with that chest there. And by the way, one of the cool things that can come out of that chest is actually Doom's throne, like a chair that you can sit on, which is quite hilarious. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know again in the comments if there's any like mechanics that I messed up or some really vital information you think that would be better if it were offered. This has been a very long one, as I knew it would be with the Doom fight. But yeah, thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you very shortly. I have a series I'm quite passionate about that I want to do for Guild Wars, that a lot of you guys are going to scratch your head and think, why the hell is he doing this? And hopefully I'll be able to explain why pretty shortly. Cheers. I'll see you soon.
Won't Doom just gain the strength to free himself again?
The alterations to the ritual assure that his new bonds are unbreakable.
How will the underworld operate without the Reapers?
Efficiently.
You recovered just in time.
Yes, that was fortunate for humankind.
What will you do now?
I remain faithful to the Prince of Winter. I will have his bidding done as I see fit.